I can say without a doubt that starting to watch OPs has made watching anime in general a better experience. Especially after starting a new full time job, I take that 90 seconds to sink into my chair, sing along poorly, and build up the anticipation of getting to unwind with something after a long day. For those of you that seem to have an exact sense of a minute and 30 seconds on the seek bar, try having some patience, and I hope that these entries will show you just how powerful openings can be. Here are your nominees for Best Opening of 2023.
And your jury winner for best opening is Innocent Arrogance from Heavenly Delusion. And your public winner for best opening is Idol from Oshinoko.
So, Phenom, before we went into this, you were giving me this kind of like mixed feeling about seeing the rankings. Can you
Yeah.
explain where that feeling arises from a little bit?
Okay, so I'll just say this, the jury more closely aligns with, my personal tastes as far as the best openings go from the year. Especially, I was shocked how many people forgot Onimai's opening, or maybe just didn't care for it as much as I did. That's probably my favorite opening from 2023, and it feels like everybody I talked to by the end of the year just kinda either forgot about it or were like, "Meh, it wasn't that good." And I was like, "What? It was so good. What are you talking about?" So I'm already seeing it super low in the public category, and that kind of lines up with what I've heard from other people. So I love seeing it high up. But
What's so good about it?
man, where do I even begin? Like, obviously, music is super subjective, so that's not always going to resonate with people. But I love the song. I think the just the sync and the way that every single visual component of the opening kind of matches with the song is super super well done. I think it's just super charming. It matches the vibe of the series very very well. Like, it's just everything you want in an opening, man.
Now, the vibe of the series, upon first blush, can seem a little.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, the
I
full.
already know what you're about to say. I already know
but
what you're
but
about to say.
but are you saying that the opening, like
I
someone
think
kind
it
of.
what I mean by that is I think it embraces the, very crude and very, almost vulgar side of the series, but it also has that very lighthearted, charming funniness that the series has as well.
Now, Mojave, what were your thoughts on Identite Meltdown, and why does Innocent Arrogance ultimately win above it?
Yeah, tell me that's the one thing I was gonna say is that if I had any disagreement with the jury picks, maybe I'll get flamed for this, but I didn't love the Heavenly Delusion opening that much. It is very well made, of course, but I am interested in what the jury thought about that opening that made it above everything else.
So as far as Onimai goes, the song was already mentioned, and yeah, that was a big part for the jury. The call and response in it just worked so well to create the charming, fun, hectic environment. As Phenom already mentioned, it fits the series well in multiple ways. Some of those ways are a little more charming and easily digestible than others. And that was probably the one elephant in the room with it, is there was kind of a whole spectrum of feelings among the jurors about, there's some things in the first 15 seconds where the framing is a little overt.
Yeah.
And there's fan service throughout the whole thing, and a lot of that felt really natural. There was just some disagreement about whether some of the most overt parts were as successful.
Fair enough. Yeah.
What about Heavenly Delusion?
With Heavenly Delusion, it really had the full package.
Visually, obviously there's no question. It's masterclass.
The unconnected running silhouette near
Yeah.
the end was probably one of the single most stunning things we watched this year. And it's not just a gimmick in this series, it fits extremely well for spoilery reasons.
So I don't want to prod you. I don't want to like gaslight or inflame anything. But I'm just curious with the Heavenly Delusion opening. I don't know if you disagree or if other components kind of overcame it. But one thing about it that kind of pushes it lower on my list is I felt like some parts of the opening aren't quite as synced to the song as they could have been. Like it's a very fast-paced song. There's lots of very clear beats and very clear cues where another opening would probably, cut scenes more often or sync a bit more closely to how the song is composed. But Heavenly Delusion almost kind of goes to the beat of its own drum and has a bunch of scenes that obviously there's still sync, but it's not maybe as synced as I would want it to be. And I'm curious, do you disagree with that or do you agree with that, but like that you think that's part of the appeal of the opening?
That's actually a point that came up in jury discussion. I think there were kind of mixed feelings about that, or rather, that there was a little bit of disagreement between jurors. Some felt that it wasn't an issue at all. Some just focused on when there was sync and thought it was really spectacular in those moments.
Okay.
And some said, well, yeah, it's not bad, but I would have liked to see more of it.
Yeah.
How does it do with the kind of thematic payload of the series? This kind of like distinction between this apocalyptic wasteland and this kind of stark, clean environment. Does it interplay that at all?
Well, it's probably the biggest thing is how it handles the music early on. So we just get some very basic piano at the beginning, soft and haunting, as we kind of have these post apocalyptic visuals going on. But the camera also takes this very low angle to make the characters seem so small in this intimidating world. And then as the song goes on, it kind of transitions several different times. What it does with drums is pretty interesting,
Yeah.
uh, because there are some parts in the song where it's pretty much just full on hardcore punk drumming. And it gets to that from much softer sections of the song in a pretty organic way. Individual sections have very different feelings, but it doesn't feel like it's multiple different songs just slapped together haphazardly.
When we're talking about songs, what I feel like is that Yoasobi has kind of taken over. I feel like they're everywhere now. Does anyone else feel like the same?
Yeah, and I just want to say I still think even after all of the songs that she's put out this year, I think that the first Witch from Mercury opening might be my favorite from her. And I do like that you guys, the jury, and even the public, I'm surprised, put Freerun's opening as low as it did. I'm not a huge fan of that opening, but I'm kind of surprised that the public didn't rank that higher.
But what I'm not surprised at is what they did rank high, which is
Yeah,
Idol.
yeah,
Because
that's
if you look at the
pretty.
YouTube video for it, it has 435 million with an M views.
I think I read something that said like that song was like charting higher on like US Spotify than like actual like, mainstream artists. That
Oh,
it was just that big.
and I mean, it's a cool song. It's got this like nice, like kind of unique rap
I do
breakdown.
like that about the song. Like, I feel like she's kind of gotten into, more of a standard beat, but that one sounds different from a lot of her other stuff.
And for some reason, more than anything, it's a song that I can kind of reasonably believe that a fictional Hoshino Ai would have propelled them to stardom. Do you
Yeah.
get that? Like it's got this kind of captivating quality, especially with that initial shot with the shining eyes that they use as a thumbnail for the music video is insane.
I really think they I haven't watched the series yet, but I think that they captured obviously the vibe that everything is going for. And I watched that opening, I listened to the song, I get it. Like, I understand why it's as popular as it is. I really wish we had time to talk about like all of these because I'm surprised that the Spy Family season 2 opening is so low on public, and I wish it was higher because it's amazing. Masaki Yuasa, God, Magical Destroyers, one of the most insane openings I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
What's so insane about it? I haven't seen many of these.
it's just visually eclectic. It's so weird. And the song is like something that you would never ever hear in most other anime openings. I highly recommend, just going to watch it after we talk about this.
I will.
One Piece, I'm very surprised, kind of made it because it's very underrated in the overarching anime community. I don't think I've seen like a single person really talk about it, but obviously it's very well crafted. Megumi Ishitani. It does have that drawback of or restraint of the first 30 seconds not really being an opening, but like once you actually get into the opening, it's very, very well done.
Is the first second a man saying there once was a man named Gold Roger?
No.
No.
It's literally like I don't know how to describe. It's just a book, and like it's zooming into the book for like 30 seconds. Like, and that
Huh.
sounds horrible, right? That sounds like how is that in a good opening? But it's it's it fits the vibe of what the opening is going for, but
Hmm.
obviously I do wish that was actual content. But at the same time, it was clearly still good enough that the jury ranked it as high as they did. I don't know if they have any word on that.
Yeah, Mojave, and in addition to that, just in general, can you talk about what went into evaluating these OPs? You know, obviously there's a focus on music and visuals because that's all there is. But did you read the lyrics at all? What were major points of contention within the jury? What were like these like heated arguments about?
Different jurors kind of key in on different things a lot. There were certain ones that would point out the compositing in each OP, and there were others who would talk about the concept and how interesting or attention grabbing or unique that was. It's really interesting with each of the OPs that became nominees. There's a lot of them, got rated so high for different reasons.
Interesting.
With Onimai that we already talked about. For example, that hectic fun and how great some of those visual cuts are and how that syncs up well with the call and response in the song. That was a huge selling point for that. And then with something like Magical Destroyer, the concept and the song structure comprised a lot of the discussion about that and what really wowed us with those things.
I do have a question. I have two questions actually, if that's all right. One, I see here "Song of the Dead" from Zom 100, and I love this opening. It's one of my favorites from the year. But I wanted to know, did the release structure of that opening factor into your ranking of it at all? Because obviously, when it released, it could barely even be called an opening. It was mostly recap footage because the production was just so terribly behind and such terrible working conditions for the animators. And then slowly over time, there was like a version 2 that added more footage, version 3, and then finally it was complete. I feel like I'm getting DLC for the opening, and I'm wondering, did that factor into your guys' evaluation of the opening at all, or if you guys just judged the final one?
We just judged the final product.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes
The
sense.
the way it works, this is just like a minutia, but for like the past when we have done different versions of openings, like say Darling and the Franks had version 1 and 2, whatever specific one is voted on by the public. So in this case, Song of the Dead was a public nomination, and they chose the complete one,
Gotcha.
of course.
Yeah. I didn't know like if there was like some kind of like ethical, evaluation of like should we be rewarding this company that, is under such terrible conditions that they couldn't even finish the opening?
I mean
Yeah, so-
that'd be
Yeah, so it's interesting in opening and ending are kind of those categories that you don't have to take that into consideration as much. I've been in plenty of others where we have had to, worry about that. Like, okay, how does this affect this? But with OP and ED, it's usually just, okay, we've got this self-contained 90 seconds, basically.
My second question, super, super simple. Maybe there's a easy answer, but where is Link Click Season 2, man? That's one of the best openings from last year. Is it because it's a Chinese series?
I don't know if the subreddit considers that anime. I don't think it does.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's more or less what I expected, but
it wasn't eligible. It came up in discussion right at the beginning, and that was made clear to us that it was not eligible.
yeah, that is truly unfortunate.
I think it's clear based on this discussion, based on Phenom's wonderful kind of breakdowns of, you can tell just how much passion you have just because you couldn't stop yourself from mentioning like almost every single one of these.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to whoever has
No,
to cut
no,
this down
you're
because yeah, I just really wanted to talk about a lot of these.
No, but it's that combined with Mojave's just stating how different you approach every opening because they do have that variety to them that I hope everyone takes a listen to this segment and goes out and watches them themselves. I was talking about this with the shorts team, but opening and ending in shorts, they are one of the few segments where you can just kind of sit down and watch everything one after another and get an informed opinion
Yeah.
rather than, maybe like an unwatched show doesn't get as many votes or something. Here, you don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
Those are actually all three of my categories this year.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for coming by and speaking with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.